What's up, everybody? It's Chris from Pro Photo, and this is Geared Up. This is our weekly, I almost said our weekly, bi-weekly live broadcast. But this is our weekly live broadcast where we talk about lighting, gear, techniques. We compare things like we will be doing today. So we just generally have fun, answer your questions, talk about cool lighting stuff, and whatnot. If you're watching this on prophoto.com, you're gonna see some stuff pop up around the edges as I talk about it. If you want some more information on those things, you can click it and keep watching, but also get more information on those things. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, that's not gonna happen. If you want that to happen, go to prophoto.com. If you don't care, hang out with us. Let's jump into what we're talking about today though. So this idea of this live was inspired by one of you awesome viewers that we've had. So just also for the record, today is our 1 year anniversary of doing Geared Up, which is kind of sick. So, but this is inspired by a question someone had in the comments one day during a live where they were asking, would an umbrella and a beauty dish give you relatively the same look? And it got my wheels turning in my brain. And I started thinking a little bit about it. I was like, maybe it can give you something similar. I wonder how close they are. We should do a live over it and just have fun and talk about it. So that's what we're gonna do today. There's some things to discuss about what makes a beauty dish so great, what makes an umbrella pretty awesome, and why the idea makes sense to compare them. But then we're gonna kind of get into the minutia of the differences. So let's jump right into it. So first I'm gonna grab the beauty dish. So beauty dishes are meant to be used really close to your subject. You've heard me talk about this in the past. I think we even had the live that said, stop doing this with your beauty dish. Super salacious, but just to get you to understand, like a beauty dish is meant to be used pretty close to your subject, within like a 2 to 3 foot range at maximum. You wanna keep it close. So the cool thing about them is they're relatively shallow. They're indirect because the light has to hit this diffusion panel and bounce back. I don't have one of the cool like glass plates, but there's also a glass plate that you can put in here that can take the light and kind of gives you a little more diffusion forward, gets rid of the dark circle. But the main point of it is it's indirect. So the light's hitting this deflector plate and then the light is bouncing around the dish and coming forward. So you're not getting any super hard highlights, although the silver can be a little more pointed than the white. So you may see a little bit more highlighting with the silver. It's just a contrastier reflector. But that's kind of the point of it. You can use it up really close. You can get it overhead, which is kind of one of the main ways it's used, is to kind of keep it right over the head of your subject. So it's in more of a butterfly light style, or I guess paramount is when you take it off to the side like this, but more of a butterfly light style. This is kind of traditionally how it's used. And the size of it gives you the ability to keep the deflector plate, so say it's up right here, you're keeping the deflector plate still relatively low. So the center of the light can stay relatively close to the top of your camera while the deflector plate's coming forward, right? So you're able to get a nice catch light in the eyes. Still, because you're using it so close in relationship, you can see to my large cranium, because you're so close in relationship to your subject, it's a pretty big modifier, so it's relatively soft. It's why we call it a soft light reflector, not so much a beauty dish, but the street name for it, beauty dish. So you're using it pretty close. You have the deflector. It's smaller, so you can keep that deflector a little bit lower. It's shallow, so kind of the light's not going in really far into the beauty dish, so it's all staying relatively flat and popping back out. So that's one of the things that makes the beauty dish so cool. Now, the question came up because we were talking about indirect light sources, right? So we're gonna be comparing the silver umbrella, and so I'm gonna go with the smallest umbrella that I can go with because we're trying to keep it as close to an apples to apples comparison as we can. So we're doing the silver umbrella deep. So the upside for the umbrella is you can move it closer or further away from the light, right? So you can actually get the light in there pretty far. So if you wanted to try to keep the idea of the light being the deflector, so this will go through the light will be here bouncing into the umbrella and back. So again, indirect. So you have that same quality that you would have with the beauty dish with the umbrella, so indirect. Then you have it, bouncing around in here and shooting back out. The difference is now with an umbrella, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but umbrellas lights are a little bit longer. And by longer, you're like, Chris, what do you mean a light is longer? Let me tell you. So a longer light just means that it reaches a little bit longer. Like it's essentially comes down to the inverse square law, right? So with the beauty dish, the light source begins at the end of. Oh, are we good? Is it freaking out a little bit?
It looks like it's.
Just hit refresh on that.
On Restream. Let me know, people,
no.
if you're having issues.
Hang on a second. No, because we're still good here.
Okay.
It's just the this browser.
I have a million browsers.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We thought
We're just making sure we still got you.
Yeah, we thought we were frozen for a second, but we're good. Sorry about that. So back to kind of what we were talking about. So the diffusion panel, right? Or sorry, not the diffusion panel.
You're talking about the inverse square law. Sorry.
I was talking about the inverse square law. Thank you. At least you got me back on track. So what I was talking about with the longer light. So with the beauty dish, okay, so let's do this real quick. So with the beauty dish, the light starts here, right at the front of the light. So the inverse square law starts its function as it comes right out of the beauty dish, which is kind of cool. So, and essentially, just in case you're wondering what the inverse square law is, it's actually a math equation, but in its simplest form, the closer the light is to the subject, the faster it falls off, and the further the light is away from the subject, the slower it falls off. So, if a light's really close to me, the background's going to go really dark. If the light's really far away from me, the background's going to stay relatively close to the exposure that I am, essentially. So with an umbrella, what's cool is science, math, but the light actually, the inverse square law actually starts as it goes into the umbrella and then starts coming back out. So that distance, the distance your light is to the actual umbrella, counts towards the inverse square law, whereas it doesn't do that with the beauty dish. So it's just something unique to umbrellas. So the light starts getting longer with the umbrella. So with the umbrella and the beauty dish in the same spot, there's actually going to be more light on the background. And when we demonstrate that, we'll see that here. So, but again, it's not as small. So in order to get this in a Paramount style look above the camera, see, I'm already kind of popping the ceiling, but to try to get this into like that Paramount style like look for the camera, you're already going to be kind of fighting, and you're going to see this whenever I'm shooting here in a second. You're already going to kind of be fighting just the size of this umbrella versus the size of the beauty dish. So, and then because of that, the center, so I can hold these up side by side so you can see what I'm talking about, but the center is going to be much higher because you're trying to clear that, right? So if you're trying to keep the centers the same, can they see that, or am I going too high? Cool.
You got it.
I'm just trying to make sure I look like a gorilla.
Well.
That's neither here nor there. So, but you can see like the centers up here, look how much more room I have to make up here. So I have to actually raise this light up to try to get it to the same level. So you're not necessarily getting the light hitting at the same direction. So it's not going to be the exact same, but it's cool to talk about all that stuff, but let's actually see it in action. Let's actually see it working. So both indirect modifiers, let's start with the beauty dish, and that way you can, when we compare these bad boys, we can look at all the things that make them different. But again, the beauty dish, the nice thing about it, the deflector plate keeps the light nice and indirect. The silver can have a touch of a hot spot just because of how directional it is. The white beauty dish is a lot more forgiving, but the silver is just so beautiful. So we want to get my camera into place. You're good right there?
Yep, this is where I was.
Cool, perfect. So let's get my camera here. Make sure I have you positioned properly. Perfect, and I also want to cut this down a little bit right there. Actually, I'm going to come in a little bit closer. Perfect, you're good right there. So now what I need to do is I need to drop this beauty dish down to be right over the top of my lens. I'm just going to pay attention to my screen. Okay, they're starting to creep in.
Yeah, they can see it.
Cool, perfect. They can see everything? Good. Cool, so it's just creeping right above my lens. It's just out of view of the top, but the nice thing is we can kick on the continuous light. Oh, and just for the record, we're using, because I'm doing a beauty dish demonstration, I would be using something like a D2 right now with a dome attachment, but I'm a dum-dum and I broke my dome attachment the other day. So we're doing one better, and we're using a Pro 11. So with a beauty dish, it's better to have a dome situation, especially if you're using the original soft light reflector. It gives you the better, it just gives you better coverage with the dome, whereas the flat front doesn't quite throw the light as wide as you might need it to for that. So here we go. We have the Pro 11, we have the silver soft light reflector. We have my Connect Pro talking. Perfect, so here we go. 3, 2, 1. Lovely. Beautiful light. Very, very cool. So power level 1.7 looks really, really good. So now I'm going to turn off that continuous light for a second so I don't burn my hand.
Or my retinas.
Or your retinas. And we're gonna switch this. Yeah. It's pretty intense. So this is the Pro Head with the 500 watt modeling lamp inside of it, so it's pretty bright. So I set my umbrella down because I set it up here. Cool. Hey everybody, what's happening? Any questions yet on anything?
No questions yet.
Cool. If you have any questions while I'm setting this stuff up too, just ask away. Really, really fun stuff. But so I'm gonna try to push the umbrella in kind of closer, just to see if I can keep it relatively close to what the beauty dish is doing. And so again, here I'm gonna fight a little bit with the size of the umbrella.
Be my assistant here.
No, you're good. I just got to flip it around, and then I have to get it aimed at you.
Clip saying something about the catch light and the eye being different as well.
That's just so. The catch light would only. Caitlin was asking something about the catch light and the eye being different, and that would only be the case if in the beauty dish I was using the glass plate that doesn't make the dark circle appear. And for anyone who's not used a beauty dish before in the past, I'll show you what I'm talking about with the dark circle.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pull it up in a second. You'll see what the dark circle is. But I gotta make sure. I think this looks like it's pretty close to the position of the beauty dish. And then I'm just gonna drop this down until it's camera frame. Oh, it's past my camera. Hang on a second. There we go. Oh, there we go. We're in it. So, and then it's not pointed at you right now, is it? And so I know as soon as I point this at you, it's gonna drop right in my camera frame. So it's always just about like little adjustments. Turn on the continuous light so you can see it. So I'm trying to get right to your face. That's probably pretty close, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's go umbrella. You're good. I just want to make sure it's not in my shot again. I feel like it. What is that creeping? Oh, it's the little tag from the power cable. I was like, what's creeping in the shot? Cool. Just a little cable management thing. So here we go. 3, 2. Oh. 3, 2, 1. Lovely. So first and foremost, I'll pull them up side by side so you can see it right off the jump. Actually, we might need to retake the shot because it looks like the hot spot is
On my chest.
on your chest. Yeah, so let's just aim it up a little bit. So I'm just gonna boom this up a touch. I think that's
better.
That's better.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Yeah, that looks like it's hitting you in the face better.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Awesome. So let's look at the photos and dissect everything. And if you have any questions while we're dissecting and maybe something that I didn't think about, bring it up and we'll shoot it. We have time, which is kind of cool. So
Interesting what you just said about the dome. I remember some time ago you stated that the dome does not really make a huge difference. So is your statement of today a new insight on using the
So when I've used the soft light reflector, so these hard beauty dishes right here, I've always, sorry, I'm trying to, my this big light right here is in the shot, so I'm trying to get it out of the way. Sorry, everybody. So someone was saying that in the past I've said no dome, so has my stance changed? So no dome on the OCF beauty dish. I've always been very adamant about using a dome on the metal beauty dish. It's why I broke my dome the other day, because I never actually, they see the side shot, I never actually take it off of my flat front light. Sorry, it's, again, you can even see that I broke it. But I never take it off of my flat front lights. I'm pretty adamant about it being either on a B1 or a D2 all the time, but you can see I smashed it the other day. So always dome on this beauty dish, because it has a stopper plate inside of it, and so the light can only go to a certain point inside the beauty dish. So yes, I'm adamant about domes on the hard beauty dish. On the OCF beauty dish, you have the ability to push it past the speed ring, so you don't need the dome. So you can push it past the speed ring, you can make it hit more of the deflector by getting it closer to the deflector plate, and so the flat front can hit that and fill the beauty dish up and whatnot. But when it comes to beauty dishes, for the most part, I have for the most part always been very pro dome. So pro dome. So, but yes, thank you for holding my feet to the fire on that one. And if I've said anything counter, I apologize, because maybe I just didn't make it clear. But usually, like I said, with the metal beauty dishes, I've always used a dome. So let's pull up these two shots so you can see the difference. Let's go full screen. Come on, again, let's go full screen. There we go. So you can, with the longer light like I was talking about, even though the umbrella was just as close, it might even been at Caitlin maybe a little bit more. Look how much more the background is an even color, how much more light made it to the background. So that's first and foremost what I was talking about with the light being long. So it has more reach just because that inverse square law, you have time for that light to go to the umbrella, get wider, and then the photons spread out even more, and then from the umbrella come back and give you a ton more coverage. The beauty dish is, especially the silver one, is a lot more pointed. You could point the umbrella a little bit more too by pushing it in tighter. I could always take that shot and we could see what that looks like as well, but that's just something to think about. So, but because I can get that center deflection point down lower, or I can get that center point down lower on the beauty dish with Kate, because it's not such a big modifier, you can see you can get a nice catch light in the eye. For anyone who is, it's kind of up high, but there's a small little black dot in the center of the modifier, and that's that deflector plate. When Caitlin was asking about letting extra light through, if you change that deflector plate out to the frosted glass, you won't have that. It's probably easier if I just zoom in really tight and kind of point to it. So there's a little black dot like right here in the shot. If you use that frosted glass plate in the front, that is minimized, so you don't see that as much. It also adds a little bit more hardness to the light, but shadows wise, they're both relatively soft, like especially here with the neck shadow. The line of demarcation here is a little softer with the umbrella, and that's simply going to come from the fact that it's a bigger modifier. But you can still tell there's a nice feathering of the edge here, even with the silver beauty dish that has kind of that hard, punchy look to it. It's still large in size to the relationship of Kate's face. So really, really nice soft reflector. You can see the butterfly shape under the nose. Again, it's a little more, it's not, the butterfly shape here isn't as prominent because we're able to keep that umbrella or that beauty dish a little bit lower, which is nice because it allows for a really nice catch light. With the umbrella, we have to raise that center point up a little bit more so we can get that out of the frame of the shot, especially when we're shooting it in that traditional beauty dish butterfly light look. And that's going to start to make the shadow a little bit longer here. That's why it's a little bit more prominent with the larger modifier than it is with the regular beauty dish. Still, again, really, really soft. Sorry for the zoom in on the nose, Kate, but you can see the feathering right there of the end of that shadow, just like with the feathering here of that shadow. So again, really nice soft light. Because the center point has to be a little bit higher, you're not getting as prominent of a catch light. Now, I could have backed the umbrella up a bit behind the camera and dropped it down. Sure, but I'm trying to keep the lights in the exact same place. So, but I still have you still have a catch light, and it's still got kind of that dark spot in it from the light actually blocking the reflection, as opposed to the deflector plate blocking the flash exposure. So you have that look to it. The spines look a little bit different. You can kind of tell it's a beauty dish, or you can tell it's an umbrella in relationship to that nice even, super, from edge to edge for the most part, other than that black dot of the beauty dish. So really cool stuff there. But the main thing is the umbrella is going to give you some more coverage, whereas the beauty dish is really meant to work like in this area. So again, you're using it at such a close proximity to your subject that when you're working in this close area, it's not meant to light a whole body. Whereas because of the size of the umbrella, kind of how it throws light a little bit differently, you're getting a lot more even coverage down here towards the arms of your subject and whatnot. So
I have a bunch of questions.
Yes.
Here. You want me to fire them off?
Fire some
Okay.
questions.
So Tommy wants to know, how come you're using the continuous light in addition to the flash?
So someone was asking, why am I using the continuous light in addition to the flash? One, especially with silver modifiers, they have a tendency to be very directional. So by turning on the modeling light, I can see, for the most part, where that light is pointing, and I can point the light right where I want it. The second byproduct of using the modeling light is it makes people smaller. So if you've ever seen a portrait with someone where the light was really, really dark and they have these big pupils, it's a little off-putting. Whereas when you can use the bright light of a continuous light, you can get those pupils to shrink a bunch, and then you can really start to get the color of the eye in there, which is cool.
Okay.
So that's why I use the modeling light. Figuring out the direction of the light, making people smaller.
Okay. And now Rice wants to know, do you need more power with the umbrella to get the same highlights on the face?
The umbrella did need more power, so I remember what the power was. So
He walked away.
no, sorry, I'm looking at the thing really fast. So it was about a stop and a half more than what we were needing for stop and a half. Hold on, let me do the math. We're at 1.5, now we're at 3.5, right, or are we at 3? So we're 1.5 stops up. So we're 1.5 stops up from what we were with the beauty dish. So the beauty dish is very, very, very efficient. The silver umbrella is very efficient, but something about that beauty dish is even more efficient. We were around a power level of 1.5 with the beauty dish, and we're at a power level of 3 with the umbrella. So the umbrella is a little bit less efficient, so we do need a little bit more power with it.
Let's see. If you're shooting outside, is the umbrella better?
Someone's asking if you're shooting outside, is the umbrella better? So it depends. It doesn't really matter if you're shooting outside or inside with an umbrella or a beauty dish. What you're trying to make that modifier do is what matters. So kind of going back again to stop doing this with your beauty dish thing, I see a lot of people go outside with their beauty dish and they'll back it up like 10 or 15 feet. And that's just, at that point, you're not getting any benefit of why a beauty dish looks the way that it looks, and it's a really inefficient modifier because it has to hit a deflector plate, bounce in and bounce back out, right? So if it's all about trying to light like half body portraits of a subject outside and blend it with your ambient light, you're way better off with an umbrella. It's a much better modifier for something like that. Now, if you're doing beauty shots or headshots outside, where you're bringing in some like environmental looks, maybe you're trying to make the background like fall off really, really hard and kind of make this really cool bokeh, then yeah, beauty dish outside would be great because you're, again, using it kind of how it's intended, really close, really tight, tight crop portraits, headshots or beauty shots or something like that.
Okay, let's see. Woody, I think we got you. And then let's see. RJ, how do you decide on the size of the beauty dish when you're selecting it for a shoot?
So the cool thing for us at ProPhoto, so they're asking how do you choose the size of a beauty dish when you're selecting it for a shoot. So the cool thing at ProPhoto is we only have one size. So I guess technically we have two sizes, but they're so close in size that doesn't matter. So the traditional metal beauty dish that we have is 22 inches. And then if you were using something like the OCF beauty dish, then then you would be using a 24-inch beauty dish. So there's the 1 inch on each side of that beauty dish isn't going to make that big of a difference. Beauty dishes are better smaller because once you start getting really, really big, you start to kind of lose some of the punch that makes a beauty dish a beauty dish. Again, you're having to start raising up that center point, right, higher, so you're not kind of getting the light right where you want it. I know a lot of people love some of the larger ones that are out there, and they're just going to start looking more like bigger, like umbrella type situations because they're not really doing the same thing anymore. They're deeper, so we like to kind of stick to that traditional like 2-foot range when it comes to the beauty dishes. So when it comes to choosing a beauty dish for us, you just have to decide whether you want white or silver. White's a little bit safer. It's got a little bit more coverage, a little bit more throw, where something like the silver is very pointed, but it has this really crisp punch to it that, only silver gives you.
Chris wants to know, do you find it useful to use the combo of both of them in tandem?
Do I find it useful to use an umbrella?
I read that kind of weird, but do you use both of them? Do you find it useful to use the combo in tandem ever?
So to use like so I'm guessing you're asking to use an umbrella. So if I were going to use an umbrella and a beauty dish together, what I would probably do is I would either put the umbrella down low underneath and use it as a clamshell light, just as a subtle fill, or I would go with the much larger, like an extra large umbrella, put it behind me and just have the light wrap around me, and that way it's doing the fill from underneath. So it's kind of acting like the same thing, but it's more of a forward fill than a clamshell type fill. But yeah, I would totally use them together. I've done it in the past. So umbrella would just be my fill light and my main light would be my beauty dish.
Let's see, Chewbacca wants to know.
What's up, Chewbacca?
How does the collapsible beauty dish compare with the rigid beauty dish?
So,
can we see the difference?
I don't have something broken out for it. Let's do a beauty dish comparison between OCF and the traditional rigid beauty dish on a different day. Right now I'm kind of set up with the Pro 11 and all that stuff like that, and you can't put the OCF on the Pro 11 because it's just that 500 watt modeling lamp will start to really do some damage to the fabrics. For the most part, they should stay relatively the same. Then again, I still think the nice thing about the rigid beauty dishes and using it with like a dome is it does a better job of filling the inside. But again, you can take the OCF beauty dish and you can push it closer to the flash head, and then that does a better job of keeping any of the light from the flat front from leaking. So the tough thing about a beauty dish is you don't want any stray light coming out from around the deflector plate. You want all that light hitting the deflector plate, bouncing into the dish, and then coming out. So if you start getting stray light coming out of the the edges of that deflector plate, you're going to start getting some really ugly, harsh lines. And so that's why you want to push that a little bit closer to the deflector plate. So that's when I usually shoot a beauty dish. I like to use the rigid one, and I like to use it with my broken dome on for my D2 or B1. I broke it like a day or two ago. So I was pretty bummed about it.
So many questions. Awesome.
This is awesome.
Let's see, Chris, would a smaller umbrella or repositioning the umbrella produce more light on your eyes similar to the beauty dish?
Yeah, if you get your hands on a smaller umbrella, probably. You would probably want to try to get a shallower umbrella. I don't have a small shallow umbrella that's in the silver finish that would give me something like that. But the depth of the umbrella matters too, because again, the length of the light going to the umbrella and coming back out is going to be reflected in your background. So if you're trying to do some more control in your background, you have to take that into consideration. So I'd probably go with a smaller, shallower umbrella if you could. Try to keep it in that 22 to 24 inch range. I haven't really seen many of those umbrellas out there. That's not to say that there aren't any. They're usually always kind of in that 30 to 32 inch range, which is what that one, I think that's a 33 inch umbrella. So, but yes, in theory, a smaller umbrella would get you a little bit closer, at least in the idea that you're able to get it down lower. So you can get the center of the light closer to your subject's, lower to the subject's face, so you can start to get some more prominent catch lights in the eyes. But again, Whereas the beauty dish doesn't have that long, that inverse square thing where the distance from the light to the umbrella also counts. You have to pay attention to that stuff too, so you might have to push the umbrella a little bit closer.
And lastly, we have Greg, and he says, so your umbrella needs to have a bit more of curvature and a gold interior as a comparable. When might you use an umbrella to shoot through? Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, sorry, let's see, where's it at?
Greg, right here.
Oh, Greg, right here. I came in late, sorry. So your umbrella needs to have a bit of curvature and a gold interior as a comparable. Then you might use the umbrella to, when might you use an umbrella to shoot through? So gold interior, no. So we're using silver interiors. And the only reason that we're doing silver, I could have done it with a white beauty dish and a white umbrella. We probably would have had less obvious results. So I went with silver because silver generally tends to point the light better. So we were able to get a better comparison of like what an umbrella is going to do and what a beauty dish is going to do. So that's why we went with silver. Shallower is better if you can, and smaller is better. So you want to try to stay again in that 22 to 24 inch range and try to get the umbrella as close as you can to the unit itself. I probably pushed it halfway to 2/3 down the shaft, down the light closer to the actual flash head itself. Oh, is it blocking?
Yeah, no, it's
nice.
Okay. We're not using it, but just in case.
But yeah, so that's kind of the parameters there. Does anybody have anything on Facebook or YouTube?
I'm reading them all. So let's see. And then Michael, did you use a beauty dish silver or white?
Silver. Everything is silver. Silver umbrella, silver beauty dish. Yeah, and again, that's just because the light is so directional with the silver. It's easier to pick out the subtleties that would be much harder to see with white, because generally white interior finish umbrellas, beauty dishes, any type of modifier like that are incredibly forgiving. They bounce the light really, really evenly, and they push the light forward really, really even. And so sometimes it's harder to see the comparables. So I figured this would just kind of accentuate that.
All right.
Cool.
I think we got all the questions.
So again, if you see, if Kate wants to throw the photos back up there again, just so you can kind of see the differences for anyone who came in late. So this right here is the beauty dish shot, because again, the size allows us to bring it closer to the camera lens. We're shooting it in a butterfly style light, which is generally how beauty dishes are used. Granted, obviously break whatever rules that you want to break, but for the most part, when you see a lot of beauty shots or headshots, they're kind of in that butterfly style look. So we're right over the lens, we're able to shoot the camera right up underneath it, and because we're able to get that beauty dish closer, we have a more prominent catch light, right? We're able to get the light, we were able to minimize the butterfly shadow under the nose, so we were able to keep the light a little bit flatter, but it still has some nice dimension. You can see the cheekbones here have a nice highlight to it, a little dimple action right here. It's fantastic. But we were able to keep that light down and a little more forward. Whereas because the umbrella is larger, it's about it's almost a foot bigger. We have to boom it up a little bit higher, so the center line's higher. So you're not getting as prominent of a catch light. And because of I pushed the umbrella into the light into the umbrella a little bit closer to try to mimic the shallowness of the beauty dish, but because of that, the edges of the catch light where the light hits the umbrella were diminished because it was being more focused towards the center. So you're not getting as prominent of a catch light either. The light is longer because of the inverse square law with an umbrella. It counts from the light to the umbrella and back out. So that's why the background is a little more even. So there's more light hitting the background. So just things you have to think of there. So kind of, you can get similar-ish type looks. They're both indirect, so really, really nice. The silver does produce I thought I said sliver. The silver does produce a hot spot, so that's why this is a little bit more predominant here. But with the beauty dish, it's way more pointed. It's like a 25-degree beam angle. It's crazy tight. You see how much fall off is down here compared to the larger modifier of the umbrella. So.
Ralph wants to know, do you ever use a grid with your beauty dish?
Yes, I do. The grid is right over there. I just didn't, because I can't put a grid onto the umbrella, I didn't grid the beauty dish. For the most part, this grid, With the silver, I don't know that it does that big of a difference, because the tightness of the silver beauty dish and the grit are roughly the same, but this really does a good job of controlling the spill with the white beauty dish. So yes, I do use the grit a lot, but mostly with the white beauty dish.
With the beauty dish, is it possible to avoid overexposure at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overexposed here. Granted, the screen shows a lot more contrast. Like, so what you see with Kate, there's a lot more contrast. But if you're looking at my screen that's calibrated and everything, it's not, I haven't lost anything. There's all the information is there. So again, it's just a little more pointed, but the streaming stuff kind of accentuates the contrast a little bit, so it's not that punchy.
Let's see. Is there a difference between the, oh, you might have to read that, the perforated or the diffuser? Perforated or the diffuser?
Oh, are you talking about a perforated center plate? So a perforated center plate versus like a diffused glass plate, I would think would give you something relatively similar. You're letting light through while also reflecting it some. So I think they'd be pretty close. You're going to get more even light through the deflector than you would necessarily with the one with the little holes inside of it, the perforated deflector plate. So I think the glass diffuser is probably going to be a little bit smoother, but I've never done an A/B comparison between a perforated diffuser and a glass diffuser.
And Jessica, we are here every week on Tuesday at 11.
Oh yeah, we do this every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Rain or shine, if I'm not here, Anders is here. If myself or Anders can't be here, there'll always be something happening.
In the chat to answer any questions.
Yeah, there's a really long, crazy message right there. Hold on a second.
I'm gonna let you read that.
It does very much depend on beauty dishes. I have 3. They all have very different characteristics, particularly. Okay, cool. That's a super long comment. I don't see your name, Facebook user, and I'll actually just respond back to you in the chat, because I don't want to read that whole thing right now. But very cool. No.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the comment. I love the engagement. So, but I think that's it for the day. It was a cool experiment. There's some things I knew about a beauty dish and some things I know about umbrellas that I didn't think that they would be exactly the same. The looks are clearly very different, but still both a really, really nice indirect light that you can use for, you could easily use the umbrella set up like that for beauty shots or headshots if that's what you have. The beauty dish obviously does what the beauty dish does very, very well. So really, really cool stuff. But I really appreciate you all coming and hanging out with us. Again, we do this every single Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So if you have any questions, bring them. If you have any topic suggestions, anything that you'd like to see, let us know. We try to make sure we add that into the schedule. That this live right here came from someone just asking me a question inside the chat and me kind of letting it stew in my brain for a minute. And I just wanted to do it live so we could talk about it, because I'd briefly said something about it on another live. So in the meantime, is that another question down there at the bottom? Or is someone just laughing at me saying I'll respond to them?
Oh, I didn't realize you were live.
Didn't realize I was live. Cool. I will come back and see you when I'm not live here in just a second. But thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. This is super fun. See you next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. In the meantime, peace out, everybody. Later.